Imagine you are driving down a street and you run into a traffic light. You know that when it's green, you can move forward without any problem. In is a warning to be careful. And in red, you must stop completely. Now you think that the people you help in life are like those traffic lights. There are people who give you the green light, who drive you. They advance with you, let themselves be helped and progress. Others, instead, are like a traffic light. They make you hesitate, they slow you down a little. But with some care you can continue. And then there are the red light ones. People who stop you, completely consume your time and energy, without giving you anything in return. Or what do you think about their problems? But they don't let themselves be helped. Just like a red light, some people do not change their nature, no matter how hard you try to help them. Sometimes in our eagerness to do good, we ignore warning signs, and we ended up excited about it. It is crucial to know to whom we give our help, and understand that not everyone will value or appreciate it. Think of your energy as if you were driving through a series of crossings. Some let you move forward and fill you with motivation, while others block you for no reason. Let's discover who are those red lights in your life, and why it is so important. Identify them before they affect you psychologically. In this video, I'm going to show you the 8 types of people that you should not help when you transit the third age. And stay until the end, because I'll make it like a top 8 to 1, where the last 2 types of people do not deserve not a shred of your help. You won't want to miss it. Without further ado, let's start. Let's start with the number 8 position in this top. And this is the one who manipulates you. Imagine you are sitting at home, enjoying a quiet afternoon, and suddenly the phone rings and it's your daughter. Calls you to ask you for something more and more. Maybe it's money, or that you take care of the grandchildren, or to do him any urgent favor. You do it with pleasure, because you want the best for her. But something inside you tells you that this is becoming a custom. It's not that you don't want to help, but it seems that lately, whenever he calls you, is to ask for something and never to see how you are doing. Sometimes in life, especially when we have already traveled many years, we become so too giving that we stop noticing when someone is taking too much. It's like when you have a candy jar on your table, and little by little, someone is bringing out one after the other, until suddenly the mirror is empty, and you didn't even notice. This is the case with some people. Take your time, your energy, and you realize too late that you are no longer left with nothing for you. This does not mean that our family or our loved ones always have bad intentions, but from time to time, may unintentionally cross paths. That line where instead of asking you for a favor, begin to take advantage of you, and you, with your humble heart and the experience of life, you keep giving because it's hard for you to say no. Think about it this way. When you help someone, it's as if you lent him your umbrella on a rainy day. But if that person never returns your umbrella, and every time it rains, he asks you for another one, there comes a time when you are left with none for yourself. A good example would be whether your daughter or son asks you to take care of your grandchildren. At first you would gladly do it, but over time it seems to turn you in the family's official kangaroo. When one day you tell him you can't, because you have a medical appointment, or you want to travel. In other words, live your life a little bit. Will surely make you feel bad with comments such as, "How are you going to do that? You never help me," or "You always think only of yourself," as if you were selfish for prioritizing your health or your life. This is not uncommon, especially for those who have passed all his life caring for others. Sometimes we become so good at helping that we forget that we also have the right to take care of ourselves. And this is where the trick of manipulators comes in. Know exactly what to say and how to make you feel bad if you do not access their hearts. This does not mean that we should close ourselves or distrust everyone. On the contrary, the key is to recognize when someone really needs help and when he is just taking advantage of our Sometimes those handlers are not far away. Can be family members, friends, or who have begun to order without giving in return. Is not something they always do with malice, but it is something that ends up affecting us. Is important. Remember that you do not always have to be available for others. Think of your life as a house with doors and windows. If you leave all the doors open all the time, any cold wind or unwanted visitor can enter. But if you know when to close the door, you can better protect yourself from those people who'd come alone to take with no intention of giving. Practical advice is to learn to say no without feeling guilt. Sounds easier than it is. But when you realize that your well-being depends on setting these limits, it is easier to understand than to say no. Does not make you a bad person. On the contrary, makes you someone who takes care of himself and who knows that he cannot give what he does not have. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for taking care of yourself. Now let's continue with the number 7 position, the ungrateful one. Imagine you are at home after a long day. You have prepared a meal with much affection, perhaps your partner's favorite dish. When you sit at the table, hoping to share a quiet moment, but instead of listening to a thank you, the first thing that comes out of his mouth is a complaint. The meat is very dry. Or again, the same for dinner. And that's where you wonder why he never seems to be playing. Why, whatever you do, it seems that nothing is enough. Living with someone ungrateful in old age is like trying to fill a vessel with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much water you put in it, it never gets full. You keep adding more and more, hoping that one day that vessel will retain something. But the truth is that it always ends up empty. This does not mean that your partner does not love you. But sometimes there are people who, for their way of being, they do not appreciate everything you do for them. Think of it as a plant that does not flower, no matter how much you water and take care of it. There comes a time when you ask yourself if you are putting your energy in the right place. Sometimes those little comments from your partner, these constant complaints, are nothing more than signs of a person who has lost the ability to see how good he is in front of your eyes. A clear example of this situation can be seen in the case of a woman who has been married for more than 30 to 40 years, and she felt it was frustrating to do so, that her husband did not value nothing she did for him, despite the fact that he cooked with care, kept the house, and was always willing to listen to him. He only mentioned things that were not to his liking. Sometimes the best way to deal with an ungrateful person is to take a step back. It is not a question of ceasing to love or being selfish, but to set healthy limits. Because if we are always giving, expecting something from, we are worn out. And if that smile does not come, we may begin to feel resentment. And resentment, believe me, he is the worst enemy of a healthy relationship. It is not about abandoning your partner, or to stop doing what is born of your heart, but to recognize that you cannot fill the void, emotional burden of another person. If someone does not know how to appreciate what he has, that's a battle you can't win sometimes. Ungrateful people are so focused on what they don't have, who forget how much they already possess. Snow is like the sun. Without it, there is no plant to grow, and it is true. If the relationship with your partner is withering, maybe missing that snow sun. But just like plants, sometimes it is necessary for a relationship to going through a dry season to make them both aware of what is really need instead of following. Frustrating you because your partner does not value what you do. Begin to value what you do for yourself. Don't forget about yourself. Perhaps by seeing you prioritize your well-being, he also begins to notice the lack of oxygen in his life and to change his attitude. And if you decide to continue helping, it should be because genuinely born to you. No, because you expect recognition. Authentic does not always come in the form of words, but when you learn to set your own limits, you realize that taking care of yourself is so important. How to take care of others. Now we go with the 6th type of people whom you should not help. Those who are lazy. Now, let's talk about a type of person that can be a challenge for those who are in the elderly. Those that look like have a complicated relationship with effort at times. You can see someone who looks like have an to work. There are always no excuses for doing nothing. As if the sofa were your kingdom and the remote control his faithful companion. Imagine you are in a family reunion and someone mentions who was unable to help with household chores. Making any excuse does not lift you. A plate does not sweep, you do not wash your dishes, even once enough to say, well, something did. This is how the lazy professional appears. A true master in the art of inaction. Although it may seem funny, this teaches us about the importance of effort in our lives. Some people look like to have found a way of life in which tomorrow is his mantra. Maybe sometime you met someone who always promises, who will start exercising, but he never does it in his mind that tomorrow is a magical place where they accumulate all pending tasks. But the reality is that tomorrow never comes. It is easy to fall into the trap of laziness, especially when living in an environment where inaction is the norm. Procrastination can be a bad partner in life, especially for those who wish to stay active and healthy. When an elderly person surrounds himself of friends who prefer to meet at home watching television instead of going for a walk or participate in activities, is likely to start adopting the same lifestyle. It is not a question of cutting ties with those who die a nap instead of going out to exercise. But care must be taken. Surrounding themselves with people who are not looking for the effort can make you feel as if you were trapped in a pool of insecurity. As they say, we are the average of the people with whom we spend the most time. The key is in finding a balance and to surround ourselves with people who inspire us to get up from the sofa, enjoy life, and stay active. Because at the end of the day, effort is what allows us to live fully. So the next time you meet with someone who prefers to watch a series instead of going for a walk, ask yourself, I really want to let that laziness spread. Remember that you are the one who decides in which direction you want to go. In fifth place of those we should not help, we have the irresponsible. There are those who seem to inhabit a world where the consequences do not exist. A true paradise where responsibilities can be avoided is the norm. Imagine you are on a train that begins to derail. All passengers in a panic try to sustain themselves and maintain their balance. But in a corner, there is someone sitting with a carefree attitude, saying, it's not my fault this is happening. That's the irresponsible one at his best. When we try to help someone with this behavioral pattern, we often end up caught in a frustrating cycle. No matter how hard we try, our help rarely translates into positive change. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it. No matter how hard we work, the water keeps coming out. This type of people has a special talent for blaming others for their failures. And if something goes wrong, they are never responsible in their mind. There is always one more culprit, and often, that's the culprit we are. The unfairness of this situation not only affects our peace of mind, but may also impact our reputation. That is why it is essential. Adopt a careful approach. By dealing with irresponsible, instead of solving their problems, we could to guide them to reflect on their actions and the consequences they entail. Just as a garden needs to be cultivated, our relationships also require time and effort. Sometimes the key is to empower these people, helping them develop auto skills. Evaluation. There are those who say it is never too late to learn. And this also applies to liability. It is not a question of denying them help, but to convert each situation in a learning opportunity. Dealing with irresponsible people can be an exercise in patience and self-control. In this regard, remember that having the wisdom to doubt is a strength. So next time you apologize to an irresponsible chronicle, Take a deep breath and ask yourself, I really want to keep investing my energy here. Helping others is noble, but there is a limit. And this is usually attained when our goodness turns into a pillow for your laziness. Instead of frustrating, you consider this as an opportunity to practice the art of being kind but firm at times. The best way to help someone is not to help him at all. Number 4, the one who keeps criticizing you. At this stage of life, one should be enjoying every moment and surrounding themselves with people who bring value. However, there is always someone who seems to have a radar special to detect every small defect, either in the way you dress, the way you organize your day, or even in the decisions you make. It's as if they had a microscope that only highlights errors, leaving aside the wonders of life. Imagine Clara, a 65-year-old woman who has always been very close to her pink sister. Despite its closeness, Rosa has a habit that affects Clara. Constant criticism, for example. When Clara decides to redecorate her pink house, cannot avoid point out every little detail you don't like. Why you chose that bright color? You should have opted for something softer, says while watching with disdain. Even at pink family reunions, feels the need to give your opinion about the food that Clara prepares. It seems to me that you overdid it with the salt, didn't you? You could have done something lighter. These criticisms, although they may come from a place of concern, often make Clara feels insecure and underappreciated. Over time, Clara begins to notice that every comment from his sister discourages her and decides to implement it. Some of the strategies to manage the situation. When Rosa criticizes her choice of decoration, Clara simply responds with a smile. I love it. And that's what matters. And when he talks about light food, he chooses change the subject and focus in the joy of being together as a family. Identifying a regular critic is quite simple. Just listen to their conversations. Their words are often loaded with negativity, like bad weather that never clears but to deal with. With them, it can be like walking through a minefield. Emotional no matter how well-intentioned your actions or achievements may be. Always will find a way to them with criticism. Sharp is crucial. Remember that we should not let your comments, we like destructive criticism, tend to say more about them than about us. The key is to divert the conversation towards something more positive. Maybe mention a project you like, or an activity that fills you with joy. Can change the course of the talk by a simple change of subject, can act as a rejection of their verbal darts. Constructive criticism can be valuable, but chronic criticism only erodes self-esteem and undermines confidence. At this stage of life, establishing clear boundaries is essential. In doing so, you protect yourself from its negative influence and encouragement, a more positive and enriching environment around you. Remember that life is too short to lose with those who only seek criticize instead of constructing. We go with the third place of this top. And here we find the narcissist. Have you ever come across someone who looks like to have an angel instead of a soul? Welcome to the fascinating world of narcissists. Those beings who have carried self at an incredible level. Imagine what you try. Fill the Grand Canyon with a glass of water. This difficult may be trying to satisfy a narcissist's ego. Over the years, people over 60 years of age may find that this type of personality is more common than it often seems. Narcissists have an impressive ability to convert any conversation in a monologue about their achievements, no matter how insignificant they may be, tell you how they have conquered the world. While you wonder if you've ever will hear what you have to say. Think of it as a neighbor that every other day shows up at your door, ready to tell you everything that happens in his life. As if the sun would have gone out only to illuminate its grandiose existence, from the time he got up until he went to sleep. Every detail of its life becomes an epic tale of achievement. Yesterday, I mowed the lawn faster than ever. Or, I decided to paint my house in a color that no one has ever seen before, and so continues, without realizing that others simply trying to enjoy a moment of peace. Dealing with a narcissist can be more exhausting than trying to teach a cat. Barking is like being on an emotional roller coaster, where your feelings are blurred in the face of his constant need for admiration. Next time you meet trapped in one of these conversations, unidirectional, remember that you are not obliged to be the audience, captive of his show. At this stage of life, it is essential to learn to set limits. It is not a question of trying to change the narcissist, but to change how you interact with it. If at any time they show a hint of empathy, recognize it, but when they start their usual auto-pump session, don't play along. After all, your time and energy are valuable, and you shouldn't spend it to feed his ego. It's easy to get carried away by of their stories, but remember that the ego of a narcissist is like a voracious octopus that feeds on your life. Don't let it become the drowning octopus. Your own aspirations and dreams. Listen carefully. I will finally reveal to you who are the last two types of people who don't deserve a little bit of your help. But before that, if you got this far, leave us a comment from where you are watching this video with us. I encourage you to subscribe if you are not yet part of our community, and to leave us your like is very important to us. Do not forget, pause the video for a second and let us know where you see us from. Now we are going with these two people to whom you should not help at this stage of your life. And in the number 2 position, there are those who only take advantage of you. Imagine you find yourself with someone who always seems to be on the lookout, looking for any opportunity to take advantage of others. This is the one used. A master in the art of taking advantage of someone else may look charming, but behind that smile hides an attitude that can undermine trust in any relationship. Sometimes it's like when you use your cell phone. You have a battery that you want to last all day. But there are people, such as certain friends or even family members, which are like applications that consume the battery without you noticing, are always asking for favors, whether you help them with a purchase, to lend them money, or to do them a favor. But when you need something, the battery appears to be fully discharged. Think of a child who always comes to you when he needs something, but rarely offers to help. When you require it, it makes you feeling good about telling you that he loves you or needs you. But it is evident that he only looks for you when it suits him. Such an attitude can be frustrating and exhausting, especially at this stage of life. When you want, surround yourself with relationships that really contribute and not drain your energy. The exploited are experts in making you feel guilty if you do not meet their expectations. You may notice that they are always the first to accept help, but they rarely return the favor. And what is worse, often disappear when it comes to collaborating or make an effort for the relationship. It's as if your cell phone has an eternal charge, but it only serves to give, without the possibility of receiving in return. It is true that giving and receiving are essential in any healthy relationship. But when you feel that you are always giving, and you get nothing in return, it is time to reconsider the situation. Sometimes it is better to channel that energy to people who actually value your contribution. After all, at this stage of life, surround yourself with equitable and gratifying relationships is what really matters. So if you run into a profiteer, remember that it's time to take care of your own battery and not let others consume it for no reason in the end. We reached the number 1 position in this top, and these are the envious. Imagine that you have just purchased a new car and full of technology that you like. Can you imagine telling all your friends and family True, but who would you tell first? Before you start making that mental list, let me share with you something interesting in life. As in, the use of a car is vital. Choose well who you decide. Give access to your personal engine. The envious are always on the lookout, ready to launch their darts of disapproval and resentment. You may have noticed that even a small promotion in the workplace or a new recording can generate unexpected reactions. It may be that a friend, upon learning of your new acquisition, make comments, derogatory, or minimize your achievement, is a reflection of its own insecurity. And at this stage of life, you shouldn't let that get to you. Think of a relative of yours who is always talking about what he has done or achieved, but when you share your good news, seems to feel threatened. It may be that every time you tell him something positive, he starts telling his own stories. Almost as if I were competing with you. That attitude can be like a bad driver on the road. Distracts you and can lead to an emotional accident. Envy is a common feeling that arises from the perception of a sensitivity between what we have and what we think we deserve. It's as if we had an accountant, internal cosmic justice, that gets out of control when someone else manages to what we consider that should be ours. In this era of social networks, it is better to keep your successes and plans a secret, since sharing them can create a false sense of accomplishment and reduce your motivation. Remember that every time you triumph, the envious one dies a little inside. Multiplies. That's for the people to whom you tell your plans, and you will see how much negative energy you attract. Without realizing it, the envious can be difficult to identify. But there are signs that can help you. Those that minimize your achievements, or are they just there when they could benefit from you? So, when you notice these attitudes, it is a good time to slow down and reconsider who you let into your life. At this stage of life, the most valuable thing is to maintain relationships that enrich your journey, not to be forgotten. You are not obliged to help or please those who do not value your achievements. Sometimes share your successes is like opening the door to your new car. Not all passengers are ready to enjoy the trip with you. There are those who are only there to criticize, color, or model. So what to do about this? The key is to be selective, as if you were choosing who to invite to your trip. Share your good news only with those you know, who will really be happy for you and will support you along the way. You don't have to become a hermit, but it is important to take care of your energy. Remember that you do not need everyone's recognition to validate your success. As when you drive, sometimes it is best to enjoy of the landscape without worrying about the other cars on the road. Remember, at this stage, your emotional well-being is the most important thing. Keep by your side only those who they really care about you. After all, there is no reason to give the steering wheel to those that they just want your car to stop, or that you take an unexpected turn in your path. At the end of the day, the journey of your life is yours alone, and deserves to be traveled with those who appreciate every kilometer toured with you. So now that you know who you shouldn't help in the elderly, I want to hear your voice. Which of these points did you find familiar? You have experienced a similar situation to the British ones. How you live your life today? Leave me your comment below. I would love to know your experience and what you think about it. Thank you very much for watching. Until the next video.